The Environmental Investment Fund of Namibia is a special state vehicle for resource mobilization for investments into the environmental sector, targeting investments into areas such as natural resource management and utilization, green technology, tourism, and research. The ultimate goal is to support environmentally and climate change resilient development pathways in Namibia. The Environmental Investment Fund became the first Namibian entity to be accredited to the Green Climate Fund in 2015, paving the way for increased investments into climate resilience and adaptation in the country. Accredited as a direct access entity, the fund had by mid-2017 accessed just under $20 million in climate financing for 2 projects on behalf of the Ministry of Agriculture, Water and Forestry and Ministry of Environment and Tourism respectively. This was done through the normal track, which, notwithstanding the urgent need for financing, still fell short of climate financing needs in other sectors of the Namibian economy.
The decision taken by the Green Climate Fund was received with high optimism from the Environmental Investment Fund as an accredited entity and the National Designated Authority, which is the Ministry of Environment and Tourism, a ministry under the Republic of Namibia. The decision itself signaled an intent and commitment from the Green Climate Fund to support urgent actions in line with the COF as alluded in the Paris Agreement. As a country, the decision came on a perfect time, as we thought we had a very good pipeline of projects that fit within the criteria of the simplified approval process. Our experience with the direct access processes have proved to be stringent and to be challenging in terms of accessing resources from the GCF. As a country, we also felt that we are running out of time, as a lot of our communities are heavily impacted by the impacts of climate change. As a result, there's urgent action and a call from our government to provide solutions and interventions that enhance capacity of our communities. Considering our accreditation scope to the Green Climate Fund, our pipelines are well within the simplified approval process guidelines. They are presenting a huge transformational impact in terms of potential, and also they are of paradigm shift to a climate resilience pathway. Secondly, they are also within the micro funding scope, that is $10 million, and projects that are within the category C of the environmental and social safeguards.
The Kunene region in northwestern Namibia is the most hard hit by persistent droughts in the country. Climate change has increased the frequency and severity of these droughts. Rangeland is particularly negatively affected. 77% of households in the Kunene region rely on subsistence farming. 73% of households have livestock. Proportion of households with access to water supply for livestock in Kunene region is 48%. The average crop loss for maize in 2016-2017 was 73% in Kunene region. The region has the second highest percentage of population food insecurity at 40%. The Namibian government allocation for drought relief in the Kunene region for 2016-2017 is 32 million Namibian dollars out of a budgeted 616 million Namibian dollars.
The Namibian government and the Environmental Investment Fund, as an accredited entity, chose to submit this particular project through the simplified approval process because it presented a high low-hanging fruits, and it was of interest from the stakeholders and the government at large. The project aims to address the vulnerability of small-scale farmers under the condition of climate change by supporting ecosystem-based adaptation and early warning systems that promote resilient farming in the Kunene region. It is implemented in 3 localities, that is Sesfontein, Framkwel, and Fransfontein. The 3 areas are situated in the Kunene region of Namibia, an area that is home to close to 85,000 people, whose livelihood depends mainly on subsistence agriculture and ecosystem services. This is also an area that is highly susceptible to drought, and climate change has over the last few years worsened this problem. The interventions planned for the project are the adaptation of rangeland management techniques that will reduce the vulnerabilities of the farming communities in those 3 areas.
The direct access approval process has actually been a process in which we've learned to do quite a lot with the little resources that we had at the fund to develop proposals that address climate action, particularly adaptation in Namibia. The Secretariat's decision to develop the simplified approval process has given the fund a wider scope to actually look at projects that are actually prioritized by the government and that speak to national development goals. At the moment, the project development team learned that the concept note to fill in, for example, was quite short, very straight to the point, and it really suited our project development team. They worked in tandem in such a short time, to the extent that by the time we started to get the no objection from the National Designated Authority in December last year, we were able to submit this proposal in February, which is real record time. Small projects in the areas of the Kunene region, particularly areas that are heavily impacted by climate change, such as Kunene, the southern regions in Namibia, where farmers actually grapple to come to terms with the negative impacts of climate change, have been learning and have been yearning for assistance in the areas of climate adaptation. It is therefore an opportunity that the EIF has grasped with both hands to ensure that we provide and mobilize resources and direct them to those that need them the most in this country. And these are really the people with smallhold farmers, women, young people in the rural areas that need most of this assistance. So through this SAP, we're really happy to participate. We are proud to be the first successful applicant to a simplified approval process project, and we couldn't thank the Green Climate Fund Secretariat more.
My contribution to the project concept note with regard to the submission on the environmental social safeguard is more really to look at what are the impact or the socio-environmental impact in terms of the proposed activity to the project. Of course, take into consideration that this is not a full feasibility study in terms of ESS, but of course touching on key activities and see if they have or assess as per the assessment checklist by the GCF. What we want to see in here is that most of these activities should have, if any, minimum impact on socio-environmental issues. Gender is one of the key issues that the GCF actually look at for any submission, be it a full proposal or a concept note through the SAP. Of course, we are not doing a full gender assessment as it's required in the full proposal. However, for the SAP, still an assessment on gender have to be taken. However, the difference here is that this is quite a brief assessment. in relation to the proposed activity. So any identified, be it a gap, be it certain elements that need to be addressed during the project implementations, are actually taken up so that we include those in the gender action plan, which have now to be implemented during the project implementation. So as a sensitive area to the GCF, we make sure that each project proposal or concept note have an gender action attached to it.
I would like to use this opportunity to thank the Secretariat of the Green Climate Fund, whose support has been second to none. The turnaround, in terms of technical support and guidance and in directing our proposal was much appreciated, and we thank the Green Climate Fund for this support.